we are actually at time. I'm assuming a few more people will pop in, but we'll get started with all these things today. We're going to have Dianne first after an icebreaker, and then I'm going to, hopefully we will talk about some of the conversations you've been having, your assignment for last month. So we will take time to do that as well. Hello, Leslie, yay. So for the icebreaker, I'm gonna go back in time. What's the weirdest thing you have ever done in your life that you can talk about? And you can put that in the chat. I added that you can talk about. In the chat, what's the weirdest thing you've ever done in your life? And this will be the way for Dianne to get to know everybody. I know you're thinking. Everybody's got to have a weird thing.
Roller coaster. Oh, that's not weird. To me, it is, because I'm not a big fan of it. That's mine.
I'm just going to go with existing.
Well, there you go. Well, oh, Jenny, that is cool. I don't know if that's weird, but that's really cool. So maybe I could say cool or weird.
That is cool.
That's really awesome. It's very cool. How did that happen? You can tell us. You can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My other things aren't working. Okay.
Yes.
I was going to library school in Pittsburgh, and
What
that's
else?
where they were filming
Yeah.
The Fault in Our Stars movie. And I was obsessed with John Green, and I would go stalk the set. And then one time I learned that they needed extras, so I made my husband go with me, and we got in. So that's how that happened.
It's very cool. I just turned off my video because my internet connection is crazy these days, so hopefully that will help. And okay, Stacy, I sort of want you to put your chin right up to the
Okay. I
camera.
can't see.
Yeah.
That's awesome. This
You'll
is
be
gonna
happy
go
to know
down
I
in
took it out
history.
before I got married. It was a requirement. So
That's awesome. Anybody else? I asked what was the weirdest thing that you can talk about that you've done, or it could be coolest thing, because we do have Stacy, the Fault in Your Stars extra. You know what? I'm actually trying to. Oh, well, I don't know if it's weird, but when I was 16, I went night skiing, downhill skiing for the first time in my life, and I listened to the peer pressure of my friends and didn't just stay on the bunny slope, but went up the mountain, and I had to walk down the mountain because they were closing, and I was too scared to ski down because I thought I was going to hurt myself. So I don't know if
That was
that's
smart.
weird, you can wait. I can swim backwards, but looks like I'm swimming forward. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's just a little trick that I do, a little pony trick when people are in the pool. I was like, oh, see how fast I can swim. And it looks like I'm swimming forward, but I'm actually going backwards, and so it takes them a while to figure it out. And then they videotape me because it looks so weird.
I want to see that video. That's crazy. I can't
Well,
even.
next conference when there's a pool, I'll show you.
Okay. Well, I think that might be 2030 when we're back in a face-to-face experience, but I will hold you to that path.
That's right.
Sorority rush. Okay, Allison, there is a story. It was weird because it was just you did sorority rush.
God, it's horrible. And it's very, 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 very.
Okay, and Morgan, what's that about? You established.
Oh, for changing my last name as a minor.
Oh.
Oh, very cool.
Mm.
That's very cool. And Allison, you broke up again. I don't know what that's about.
Did I break up?
All right. Anybody else have the weirdest?
We can hear you now, Allison.
You did break up, and your video.
I think it's you, Linda.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's me?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna stop talking.
No, I just decided to join a sorority in college for about a year and a half. And when you're on the other side, being in a sorority, and going sorority rush. It's just weird. It's weird.
I get that.
I bet it is.
And
Yeah.
squirrel stew, I've heard of that, but I can't imagine.
It's quite good.
Mm.
But is anybody eating squirrel?
Oh no.
It's gamey, but it's good.
Okay.
There is a difficulty that it's not unusual to get some buckshot in your stew.
And are there little tiny bones?
No,
Okay, good.
because, well, it's been boned well.
Okay. Well, I was a massage therapist when I lived in Memphis, Tennessee, and I worked at a hotel, and there, the Peabody, if anybody knows the Peabody, and I gave massages to a whole bunch of different people, but the weirdest ones was Kiss and probably the E Street Band, you know, Clarence and Clemens, and you know, that was when Bruce Springsteen was traveling with his own massage therapist, but the rest of the band got massages from me. So, and I didn't know who they were. I wasn't a Bruce Springsteen fan, and I said, "So, where are you guys from?" And they thought that was really hilarious that I didn't know that they were all, you know, New Jersey boys.
It's awesome. Carol, I always say you have had like the most, you've had like every job in the world. That's one I didn't know about. And I'm like,
I've had a lot of jobs. That's
you
true.
have had a lot of jobs and I think pretty much covered everything. All right, I'm going to get us started. And I'm really, first of all, I'm really happy to have Dianne here. Dianne was in Cohort 3, and she's out in Texas, in Pottsboro, just north of, and I only know this because of talking to someone else in Texas, exactly where it is. It's north of Denton, which actually that probably doesn't tell people much either, but it's north of Denton, which is where, what's the name? Texas Women's University is. Is that what that's called, Dianne? Yeah.
Yes.
And she's been doing amazing work with communities as a part of this project and ongoing. And Allison said, "Oh, I keep seeing Dianne doing these webinars. She should talk to our group." So I thought, oh, that's awesome. So I asked Dianne to talk about how she's still connecting with community and the kinds of things she's doing, even in these challenging times that we are facing. So Dianne, I'll let you take it from here.
All right, Linda, how long do you want me to talk?
20-ish minutes, and that can include questions and answers. Does that work?
That works for me. Let me
Good.
see if I can. I've got some slides just so you will get an idea of where I am. Is that in full screen mode for you? Do you see my slides? Let's see.
Yes,
Yes.
but they're in, we're not seeing presenter view, which is fine.
Okay.
We're seeing your, the thingy on the left.
There you go.
There we go. That's
All
it.
right. So these slides are, I did, gosh, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago was Library 2.0, and I did a session on digital inclusion. And I guess maybe when you say what's the weirdest thing you've ever done, maybe it's becoming a library director, because 10 years ago, after having lived in large cities my whole life, and I had my own business for a while. I had a master's in gerontology, the study of aging. So I'd had a case management business, and then I became a corporate trainer. And 10 years ago, I was moved to this rural community, did not want to meet anybody, did not want to do anything. And a couple months after I moved here, somebody asked me to attend a board meeting. The next month I was on the board. 2 months later, I was the president of the board. And then I became the director of the library. So I am a volunteer. I've been in this position for going on 10 years now. And I think what appeals to me is such a perfect time in libraries this last 10 years, we're reinventing ourselves. And specifically in Pottsboro, the library had been all volunteer, all donation, and the volunteers were aging out and the money from the bake sales was going down. So they were talking about how they were going to close the library. And I thought, okay, well, so if I get involved, no harm if the library closes. It was going to close anyway. So let's experiment. So luckily, because the city government didn't have a stake in the game at the time, it was freedom to create whatever we wanted to create. So lots of flexibility. And so, yeah, we're 90 minutes north of Dallas. I don't know if I told you, Linda, but I am now, I'm at Texas Women's University working on my MLS. I have 1 semester left. I managed to get a scholarship for that. So it's kind of interesting having gone into this library world without a background in libraries and then living it all these years and now seeing what they're teaching in school. So one of the things with rural communities, I bet you all are familiar, is a very small budget. We're a lake community, so there are a lot of people who move here who were professionals. So they buy weekend homes and then they retire here. And they're used to lots of services and some of the finer things in life. But then on the lower right is what our main street looks like. It is a small town. It's not quaint, it's not cute, it's just a poor little town. And a lot of the people who live within city limits work in, you know, nursing assistants or bartenders, that kind of thing. So they tend to be lower income. So as a library, we're serving, you know, all these audiences. And our building is one big room, basically. It was a post office, and we have a wonderful foundation in Texas that the only thing they fund is libraries in towns with populations below 12,000 people. And I was fortunate enough to serve on their grant committee, and we'd meet twice a year to give grants to libraries, which really helped improve my grant writing. But they gave us $50,000 to redo the inside of our library. And I think that's very important because we have to fight so hard against what the stereotype, the nostalgia of what a library was. So it always makes me happy when people open the door and are shocked with how bright and colorful and exciting the place is. Upper left there, you see we got an IMLS grant last year, $50,000 grant to form an esports team. So a lot of the things we do are because I like to try new things and be inventive, but also we're always looking for the things that the news would want to cover, buzzworthy things, because that is meaningful when I go before city council to ask for budget when they've seen us on the TV news and the news is saying good things about Pottsboro. And it's not a Pottsboro station, it's in a town nearby. So always thinking strategically. David Lankus wrote an article recently and it was like, okay, people keep talking about the new normal, and are we going to think about what we've lost through this, or are we going to look at this as an opportunity to recreate ourselves? And so in some of my thing, I talk about that opportunity hides behind adversity. And right now, digital inclusivity, the people in rural communities suddenly being locked out of school because they're home and they don't have internet. There's so much money coming down various pipelines to help rural communities get connected. And in my opinion, that's what libraries are about, or internet. So just through this, the way we've connected with groups, we had a 3D printer that had not been well used for several years, just tchotchkes and stuff. And you may have seen a Boy Scout in Canada created this design for ear guards, so that if your ears get sore when you're wearing a mask, you could use this ear guard to hold the mask rather than it looping on your ears. So we've printed about 700 of those ear guards, and shipped them all over the nation. We ended up doing, but especially for our local hospitals and healthcare providers. And that has given us a new group of stakeholders when it's annual appeal time to ask for donations. We will be sending them letters. And we also printed on the left there, you can see some of those are the more heavy duty masks. You can put a HEPA filter in those. So some of the dentist office wanted those, and we also printed some face shields as well for them. And when we would give things out, we'd give it with this letter like, hey, please, like us on Facebook, because then when they comment on Facebook and say, hey, thanks for keeping us safe or whatever, that goes into our little file for later when we're talking to city council or writing grants. So we were really busy. All kinds of essential workers were coming in for these ear guards, and it was a way to connect with people who have never been into the library for anything else. And so connectivity is a big deal. We started working with local churches, chambers of commerce, businesses, talking to people in the community saying, hey, the kids need internet. Does anybody have Wi-Fi that you'll turn on and turn the password off so that people can access internet? So we were able to do that, and it's just this community effort for like, let's all help the kids who don't have internet. We did put on in our parking lot a wireless access point to boost the signal more. And then we started reaching out to healthcare providers and people in the community who couldn't get to doctors when this was happening. Not that we wanted people with COVID to come in, but there were still the people who needed to do mental health appointments and surgery follow-up. We had a woman who needed her C-section follow-up. So we didn't close, we stayed open by appointment. So we could have one person come in at a time, and we would set them up on the computer to connect with healthcare appointments. And then we also had just a ton of people who the sobering thing in the beginning, people were coming in because one of our staff members is a notary, and they were having end-of-life documents notarized and faxing wills and that kind of thing. So accessible workstation, we've got lots and lots of e-cards to the high school and the middle school. I don't know if anybody can relate, but for some reason, which I will never understand, through the years, we've had a real difficult time forming a good working relationship with the school district. We finally made, through the years, progress through working through some individual teachers, but still the school district as a whole, the superintendent seemed reluctant to really partner with us. And we were never trying to step on their toes or steal their thunder or anything. We just wanted to support them. But COVID has opened new avenues. They've reached out to us. And so we printed about 400 e-cards so that the kids could use the databases. We provided YouTube tutorial for the school on how for the kids to use databases, and then connect with our online resources. That's City Hall. We just put that up, a sign on the main street through town. And then on the right there, I'm always trying to inform through email. I'll send all the city council members and big stakeholders in the community college president, county commissioner, what we're doing. Because when COVID first started happening, the first thing I heard from city secretary was like, buckle your seatbelt, there are going to be budget cuts. So I want to make sure that they know what we're doing. So I keep them well informed. This is available probably anywhere to any of you. There is a national nonprofit called Information Technology Disaster Resource Center. And they usually come into play either after a hurricane or a tornado. There's one of my esports players. Or the Northern California wildfires. I guess there were 17,000 homes that burned. So this nonprofit has set up an internet network for all those people. So the trailer there you see, they brought to our community, and I arranged with a hotel outside of city limits where connections are real hard to make, internet connectivity, both because just the geography, it's difficult for people to get it at any cost, but then also some people have financial reasons they don't have it at home. So the upper left is a patron I know really well. She's a disabled grandmother who's raising her grandkids, does not have a car. And she lives in the apartments you see behind the trailer. So she was able to bring the grandkids over and have them sit there and do their homework sitting by the trailer. Obviously, that's not the long-term solution. We're working on bigger solutions so they can get internet in their home. But for them, that made a difference at the time. And in the middle, a student who had been displaced from the University of Oklahoma and was working on accounting homework. So one of the things that has really helped me is the connections I have made through Gigabit Libraries Network has a weekly call, and we're connecting with people all over the world. There'll be people in Finland talking about what their library is doing, or Australia. So they connected me with this ITDRC, and also with Schools Health Library Broadband Coalition. So working on a national level for advocacy. Then we do fun things. The esports team, we didn't want to lock them out totally of the library. So we did this drive-in gaming, just like you would do drive-in movie. And so we took a trailer we had, turned it sideways, a Nintendo Switch and a projector, and we had various controllers, or we invited people to bring their own controllers, and we did a Mario Kart. So 4 people are racing at a time in that game, and we would sanitize the controllers and take it out to the car, and then pass them around like that, and they would take turns, 4 people at a time racing. And now this has become an ongoing thing that it's really well received, and we're getting to the point now that we'll be able to have lawn chairs out there so that people who aren't, in cars, people don't have to stay in cars. But this was fun because it was like sometimes if they weren't old enough to drive, mom would be sitting in the car with them for 2 hours while they were gaming, and parents talked about it being a bonding experience because they really didn't know what the gaming was all about. Veterans, I'm now exploring this, being able to do telehealth. Veterans Administration is really ahead of the curve on this, which again opens us up to a whole new group of stakeholders. If we get people and they can save money and time when transportation is difficult, to come into the library as a host site for telemedicine appointments. One of the big things in our area is establishing low-cost internet opportunities for people. And just when new people move into the community, they'll come to the library and say, you know, who provides internet? So I have these coverage maps available to talk to people. I'm working now with University of Michigan because the FCC uses maps that are wildly inflated. And so I'm trying to get a real picture of what it looks like in Pottsboro. Consumer Reports did an article about us and what we're doing. So the reason media attention is important to me is after media stories come out, I get new people calling me. Yesterday, the school district called me in a panic because all of a sudden this new school year is, you know, like the days are flying by and it's looking like they're not going to go back in person. And so now they're reaching out to me, what can we do together to work on getting internet for the kids? And my contact information, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And I just, being involved with Future Ready with the library, I don't want to get emotional, but it has changed my life because through that, I connected with Tyler Hahn, he's now library director in Cherokee, Iowa, and he and I have become such good friends. We presented at PLA together. We bounce ideas off of each other and still stay in very close contact. There are just so many ideas out there, and I guess my advice would be reach outside of library world to find out what's going on, you know, with internet providers and national advocacy groups. Let's stop that share. All right.
Thank you, Diane. I just took a ton of notes. That was really awesome. But I'm wondering questions people have for Diane about how she did any of this or any of those specific activities she talked about. My brain is exploding a little bit. But so any questions or thoughts?
I have one. Diane, can you make that, that was I too, I was sort of blown away with some of those things that you've done, really. Can you make that slideshow available to the website, what am I trying to say? Community of Practice. Thank you. I was starting to say COVID, I swear. CO, anyway. Can you make it, would you do that?
Yes,
Thank
I'll
you.
do that. I sent it to Linda, and then I can also send a link to the Library 2.0 webinar as well.
That'd be great. What an awesome level of effort, really.
It is 99% of the time it's fun. 1% totally sucks.
So wait, so what's the sucky part? Curious, really, what is the sucky part?
Oh gosh, when you ask that, I had what is it called? A case filed against me with IMLS for, I can't even think of the word, but like not human rights, civil rights violation. And it totally was not, there was no truth to it at all, but it took dealing with lots of lawyers on their behalf and all that kind of thing. So some of those headaches of management. No, the worst part I have to deal with just between us is the Friends of the Library Board. They're very careful with their money. And I've always been about, it's that spend money to make money. When I came on 10 years ago, they had $45,000 in their bank account, but they didn't want to spend it. They were saving it for a rainy day. And then the meetings would be about this minutia of, okay, should we let other people use our meeting room? And well, we can, but they can't have shrimp because somebody might leave a shrimp tail in the drain, and then that would smell bad. It was just like, let's focus on the big picture, people. And so they have spent down some of that money now, and money led to money. They started spending some money, which then led to the city supporting us. The city has now increased our budget. 8 years ago, they started with 4,000. This year, they were at almost 40,000. So they've increased our budget every year because they've seen what we've done. In fact, last year, the police asked to replace a 10-year-old police car, and the city said, no, we want you to wait another year because we want to still increase library funding. So that is a strong, the city doesn't have much money to give. It's such a small tax base, but that shows their dedication.
Awesome, thank you. Who else?
I just wanted to comment, I love that drive-in gaming idea. There was quite a few people that were doing drive-in story time, or they were doing drive-in movies or pieces like that, but that drive-in gaming, still having that the connection between people in the audience is fantastic. So I love that you were still able to offer that while still operating in a safe environment. That's fantastic.
I can also share like a debrief of how we did that. Yeah, they would flash their lights or honk their horn when they would make a good move. So it became really fun.
That would be great for the debrief. I also love that you said that the bonding between family, like that family engagement piece that just happened naturally, is really awesome.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you one, I'm talking too much.
No, go, keep going.
So before these times, we had a kickoff event for our esports team, and I did a sign up at the high school, and the high school has 400 kids, 55 kids signed up to be part of a Smash Brothers tournament, which is a huge turnout. So many times in the past, we have offered the coolest thing and thought we would just be swamped and 2 people would show up. It was just pathetic. This esports has been the game changer, no pun, for this. So we had 55 kids show up for that. And all it took was a projector and somebody's Nintendo Switch again. It didn't take fancy equipment. And a news channel came to do a story 2 days before. And when I was watching the news that night, they did my little interview. And at the end, the reporter said, and the library encourages the community to turn out for this. And it's like, oh, hell no, I have 55 people. I can't stand to have another person here. But one family came who had 2 boys, they're like 10 and 12, who have some severe learning differences. And the older one I knew gets bullied quite a bit in school. Well, through the thing, I had somebody else running the tournament. I came in my office and I hear this chanting, and it was Pikachu, Pikachu, Pikachu. And later I go out and I see the 12-year-old teary-eyed and his father comforting him. And so I, like, hey guys, what's going on? And the father told me all those high school students had been cheering for that kid. And he was just so overwhelmed with emotion that's what the tears were about. And the father looked at me and said, he has found his people. And that is why I do what I do.
Awesome. Other people, other thoughts, questions for Dianne?
Dianne, I'm curious. I know that, and for this group as well, some of the partnerships that you've formed during the pandemic, how do you feel, what is your advice as far as forming new partnerships during the pandemic when you maybe couldn't meet people face to face, or, you know, how you went about doing that?
Probably like lots of you, I'm doing lots of Zoom calls. I got to do a meeting with the IT director of the school district in a neighboring town. So it is an opportunity to reach out on things that weren't really in our wheelhouse before, but they need to be in our wheelhouse. So, and just doing lots of phone calls, but I add these people to our newsletter distribution list and encourage them to get on, you know, like us on social media so they can see what's going on.
One of the things that's, to follow up on that, one of the things that it seems to me how this all worked is by taking that opportunity, you are also responding to what you see is a need. Am I right about that? So like with the 3D printed ear guards, right? That was a need that you saw, or with, I'm trying to see what other, the reaching out to the healthcare responders. Like you're trying to, it's not just, oh, tell us what's going on, but you're seeing needs and you're trying to respond to those. Am I right about that? And does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah,
I really do. It's such a, like, what do people need during these times? And I was on a call, there was a CARES grant, and when it became time for question and answer, a lot of the questions, it was $25,000 they were offering to libraries in Texas. Each library could get $25,000 to respond to the crisis. And some of the questions were like, can we use it for cleaning supplies and disinfecting books? And that just hurt my heart. It was like, here we have an opportunity that may never come again for these buckets of money that could really make a difference. And people want to use it on Clorox wipes. And so I really am about what can we do to create meaningful change, because ultimately for us in Pottsboro, that's going to be whether this library continues or not, because this town doesn't have the money and doesn't have the will to say we're going to fund a library to just check out books. It really has to be, the community would be up in arms if we tried to close now. Mm. Making notes, Linda, of things I'm going to send you afterwards.
Thank you.
All right, well, I will jump off, and feel free to email me if you've got questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dianne. You are an inspiration for sure. I'm just so impressed with all the things you've been doing, and just when you just talked about your budget and how that has increased through the work you're doing. And then also, I just have to say, oh, I'm working with the University of Minnesota now, and I'm working with this group now, and I'm doing, that is just fantastic. Just bringing this all out into the world. I really appreciate all you've done. And thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. All right.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Well, so my brain really is exploding, but I'm curious, like, what did that, like, was there something that Dianne said, and we're going to have our other conversation too, but was there something that Dianne said or anything that were like, oh, because she did say a couple of things that were in my head were like, oh, that's a little bit of a different way to think about it than I had thought about it before. For example, when she talked about reaching out to the outside world, not just the library world, she was talking about, you know, taking on new things that we don't normally do. Anybody have thoughts or changes in how you're thinking about things now?
I had a tiny thought.
Go for it.
So, my library is open limited hours, just 2 days a week because of,
Mhm.
germs on books. Oh my goodness. And the telemedicine.
Mhm.
So we have days, 3 days a week that people are working inside the library, but there's no other humans. And so if someone had needed a telemedicine appointment and they don't have equipment to do that, because we only load hotspots, not the whole package, they could come in and have a private telemedicine appointment because there's no one there. We'll just put them in the room, close the door, and there may be people who need that. And so this is an advantage to our disadvantage.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's tiny, but I'm like, oh,
It's not tiny for the person you're doing it for, right?
Right. And they just, they're so used to that there's not a ton of privacy where the public computers
Yeah.
are. If there's no one else around, there is.
Yeah. Dianne told me that when they first started that, I think I know one of the first people who came in, or one of the people I know about, was someone who had been trying to apply for unemployment, and it was such a mess that he came in and said, I've tried this like 19 times to get in touch with them on the phone, and I can't do it. So through that appointment structure that they set up, he could come in and do it on their computers and also get some help. Just all by himself there in the library, right? But yeah, really powerful. Other things that jumped out at you or that you're thinking about for yourselves now? It's also a great way just to meet people that you might not meet otherwise.
I was just amazed with how much Dianne was doing without having a budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's a volunteer organization, and now there's funding that is being put toward her organization, but the police department was put off for a new police car because the library is doing so much in the community, and that is so obvious to her stakeholders and those that have the money. Mm-hmm. They choose the library over the police department. That is a story that you do not hear often. So the fact that she is so entrenched in her community and has made so many community connections, it's like, I need to be doing more. I mean, it's more that inspiration piece of there's so many opportunities out there. What am I missing here? Like, let's got to start doing some stuff.
Dianne kicks me in the butt, that's for sure. I talked to her last week, and honestly, I think that our conversation and having her today really helps me start moving forward again. And I would say that Dianne is one of those people that is inspiring because she sees the problem and then she doesn't shut down solutions because she sees boundaries. So she didn't mention this today, but she is working on so much grant funding that she is about to bridge the digital divide in her community, period. I mean, she's working with all of these things, all these different organizations and internet providers and national grants. And I truly believe that even though she has not accomplished it yet, she will get internet in people's homes for free. I mean, and not just to me, and she just did it.
That's amazing.
Big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. She takes something that everybody else looks at as like, wow, this really sucks, but she sees only the positive in it. You know what I mean? Like the way she said that this is an opportunity for us to recreate ourselves, that makes so much sense. And it just makes me like want to do stuff like Nick said, like, and how Allison said, it's just like, what am I not doing? You know what I mean? Just like, I got to start doing things, more things. So.
And following up on that, Stacy, I think the thing is that it's all stuff that you're not a librarian to do. Sorry, right? I mean, like this is, and that's so valuable and important. I mean, you think about all these things she's talking about, even like the telehealth, Leslie, you know, that's not what they say you do in a library. And I think that's why it's not necessarily a first response, because it's not something we close our doors and we're open for 2 days a week and we don't necessarily think about these other things. And that is so powerful to me, that she's thinking about this not as a library, but as a community organization that's going to help people in whatever way possible. And I'm dying to ask her about how this connects to what she's learning in library school, but that's a whole nother topic. But I think that, Stacy, I think that's what you're talking about, is like, we don't have to have that library, you can't see me, shroud. We can just be a community organization and do amazing work.
You know, I have to say that when you said that, Linda, it makes me wonder, and I say this with all respect, but you know how I think we get into our sort of kind of a groove with libraries, and it may very well be the fact that she hasn't been in library school, you know, that she's looking at things differently. She's really looking at things from a marketing perspective, I think. You know, she's looking at what people need, how to fill that need, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that just kind of being able to bring all of that to what she's accomplishing here, you know, just says a lot, you know. And believe me, I say that with all respect for librarians. We all love being librarians, but it's great to have a different lens and a bunch of different experience that you can look at things from. So I think her marketing is really paying off here. So. And they don't teach any of this in library school. You know, I don't believe we covered pandemics at all in library school. We wouldn't have taken that class, probably.
No, probably not. But you know, I'm gonna go back to Stacy. I've been feeling guilty about my response to you last time when you were talking about the books for the people who didn't want them, and I said, well, maybe they don't need them. But I think this is sort of an exact. I might not have said it exactly that way, but that's what I was thinking. But this is like an example to me of how you move from what you were talking about to like, what is that need that people have? And maybe it'll end up that you get books in their hands, but maybe first you give them telehealth, or you give them, you know, e-gaming, esports, or whatever. So, and Carol, absolutely, it's not, you know, and I hadn't thought about it as marketing. She's just doing stuff, and as a result, that ends up as being marketing. I think that's really awesome.
I like it too, because she's really like playing the humanities side of the librarianship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's like really bringing people together and like really just making impact on people's lives, that I feel is what, like, that's what I strive to do as a librarian, is make an impact on someone. You know what I mean? That might not have resources otherwise, or whatever the case may be, you know?
Yeah. So I know we had one other thing to talk about, but what can you do with what Dianne talked about, right? I mean, I think that's something that we always forget, is like, oh, here, someone talked about this, but what can you do now with some of these ideas? Anybody? And Leslie talked about the telehealth, which is awesome. Are there other ways, whether it's a specific activity or just like ideas that you might want to think about more?
My part-timer was here listening in on the conversation, and he is now calling all of his friends to see how many Nintendo Switches that he can round up so we can get together some evening and play it on our back wall.
That's awesome. Anybody else?
Well, it was a simple thing, but just how she listed all the hot spots in the area and sent that to the schools so they could send it home with all the kids. That would have been great here. And that's the kind of thing she seems like to be doing, is kind of being that community connection. It's like, well, where can we get all a list of all something or another, and then she gathers the information together, and then she sends it out to the people who need it.
Mm. Okay. I was just taking more notes, and I was told that 8 seconds isn't enough for me to be quiet. I'm supposed to be quiet for at least 10 seconds. So I think maybe I did that time. We don't have, of course, as always happens, and we can start with this next time, but did you get to have conversations about what's changed and sort of bond with others around that topic? And how'd that go? Nick, you're shaking your head. I'm calling on you.
I had two experiences with that. They, with a grant that we got through our state library before COVID happened, we purchased some first-person view racing drones. So they're itty tiny little drones, and there's a first-person view goggles that you put on, and you can see what the drone is seeing. So we were really excited about that, and we bought the headset over here, we bought the drone over here, and apparently I bought the wrong controller, so the drone wouldn't actually connect to the controller. So I tried everything I knew. I was Googling, I was going on YouTube, I was trying to figure it out, couldn't figure it out. So I knew a guy, he's the husband of one of our librarians that works at the Post Falls Library, another one of our locations. So I called him and I said, I am out of my depth here. Can you just tell me, am I on the right track? Am I crazy? Am I missing an obvious button that's gonna make these things connect? Turned out that I just had the wrong controller, so he was able, and that's kind of what I thought, but I was like, yay, I was right. But while he was troubleshooting that with me, he's the research and development head for a larger company that's based in Texas, a drone manufacturer in Texas. And as a research and development group, he's actually finding that they are more busy during this time, largely because they're still able to, it's a small team. A lot of it is that research and development. So he's not seeing, during COVID, he actually hasn't seen a lot of closing down because his group was already so small that it actually didn't impact their workflow very much. The one thing that he was finding trouble with is some of their shipping lanes have been interrupted by the pandemic, but other than that, he's able to do everything that he was doing before. So it got me thinking of what other smaller companies they're still needing resources right now, but they're not as impacted by this pandemic. But then I was also thinking about the other side of that coin is my brother-in-law is the manager of Skate Plaza, which is a roller rink here in the Coeur d'Alene area. And they, similarly to libraries that are open right now, they're seeing so many fewer people coming into their building because even if you are open, people are worried about coming into a public space. And so trying to find ways of encouraging people to go there in a safe way, obviously, but still encouraging, they're open, they're offering these services, take advantage of them, if that makes sense. So kind of the two sides of the spectrum there of, here's this small R&D group that's really not being impacted at all, and here's this other side of, they're just not seeing the people, and they're a for-profit business that's not actually able to connect with their customers. So trying to figure out how does the library actually interact with both of those entities there.
That's fascinating. And totally the family member might have had more knowledge to begin with, but that's really interesting. Have you come up with anything, or anybody have thoughts? And can you, I'm sorry, there's like something going on outside my window, so if you can hear it. You started to say something?
Okay, so since I'm in Texas, what's the drone company called?
Wait,
you're on mute.
You're mute. Unmute.
There it goes. I thought I clicked the button, but apparently I didn't. I believe the company he's working for is called First Eyes. So first spelled out and then I-Z. I believe that's at least his part of the company or who he's interacting with. It's one of those pieces where there was another drone company in this area that was working with this company, but then there was some contract disputes, and so now some of the responsibilities have been shifted over here. So it's this weird back and forth of every time I'm around him, he's on the phone with this person that's mad at him, or this person that's like, oh, now we're friends again. Like there's a whole politics game for him, but I believe FRwtL is the company that he's working with or working for at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. I'm putting in the chat. Oh, not that. That's somebody's email. Don't ignore. Why didn't the copy work? You don't need that email. I found an article, news report on this drone, I think, from East Texas. So I will get that in there. Anybody else have a conversation?
I talked to the 4-H leader, and I asked her, like, how are the kids getting together? And they're not getting together. Part of it is that the town of Cusick doesn't want anyone to use a community center, even if it is 10 people or less, just because of the risk of COVID. Mm-hmm. So she and I got together, and she called all the kids to find out what they would be interested in if they were to pick up a kit from the library with things in it. What would they be interested in? And so we put together a bag that has a craft and snacks that they like, and then a book that they would be interested in that they have for free. And then as everything they need for a science experiment, making a lava lamp. And then it's not like a real lamp that, you know, you turn on or anything. It's oil and water, and it makes weird bubbles. And then I did a video for library Facebook kids so they could see the actual video on how to do the science experiment, but it had all the instructions in there too, and craft and all the instructions. And so now the kids are picking it up this week. And if they like it, then we'll be doing it again. And one of their biggest concerns for 4-H is that the kids have been raising animals all this year, mm-hmm. but they can't show them anywhere, and the county fair is closed. But tonight I'm going to be in on another meeting, and somehow the American Legion is trying to figure out a way how to buy these animals, which is a big part of the kids raising the animals. So then I'll be able to report back to the 4-H leader some of the other options that are available.
Cool. Yeah, to think about that kind of change. I hadn't thought about that before. Oh, that's interesting, Allison. I guess that's how you have to do it, right?
Yeah, our show organization, because our fair is not canceled yet, but it will be. Like the usual stock show and them showing animals, they're all going to do it virtually online and kind of like just do like an online sale.
Oh, that's a good idea.
All right, bring that to your meeting, Dianne, Pam.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, team, we are out of time. Let's continue. If you have more conversations about what's changed, that would be great. If you've had one and we didn't get to talk about it yet, you could post that on the community practice. That would be really useful. And then we will see each other this way. Here, let's see what happens if I put my video back on. We will see each other. Let's keep talking on the COP and as we continue to figure out what's happening in our worlds. Thanks, everybody.